All right, today we are diving into one of the most monumental, just absolutely sprawling stories ever told, the Mahabharata. And look, this isn't just some ancient epic from India, it's a truly profound story about family, duty, and a conflict so devastating it has literally shaped culture for thousands of years. So let's get right into it. So, just how big are we talking? Well, get this. It's about 1.8 million words long. That makes the Mahabharata the longest epic poem ever written. To give you some perspective, that's about 10 times the length of the Iliad and the Odyssey put together. Yeah, it's a truly colossal piece of work. So how in the world do you even begin to approach a story this massive? Well, luckily, it's organized into 18 distinct books, or what are called parvas. You can think of them like giant chapters, with each one covering a very specific part of the story. This structure is what guides us, chronologically, from the very start of the whole conflict all the way to the hero's final journey. At its absolute core, the Mahabharata is really a story about a dynastic struggle. The whole thing, the entire epic, hinges on this incredibly bitter rivalry between two sets of cousins who are all fighting for the throne of the kingdom of Hastinapura. Okay, so on one side you have the five Pandava brothers. These guys are the sons of King Pandu, and they're pretty much seen as virtuous and the rightful heirs to the throne. And on the other side, you've got their 100 cousins, the Kauravas. They're the sons of the blind elder king, Dhritarashtra, and their leader, Duryodhana, is just totally consumed by jealousy and a real lust for power. Now, you'd think this family rivalry would explode into a crisis because of a battle or maybe a coup, right? Nope. The catalyst for the entire disaster, which is all detailed in the Sabha Parva, was something way more subtle, a single game of dice. And the fallout from this game is just catastrophic. The Kauravas, with their cunning uncle Shakuni leading the way, use loaded dice to completely trick the eldest Pandava, Yudhishthira. He ends up gambling away everything, and I mean everything, his wealth, his kingdom, his brothers, and then, in a final devastating bet, he gambles away his wife, Draupadi. As a result, the Pandavas are publicly humiliated and sentenced to 12 years in the forest, plus a 13th year they have to spend in hiding. So after 13 long years, the Pandavas finally complete their exile. They come back to claim their half of the kingdom, and they try to do it peacefully. But the arrogant Duryodhana, he refuses to give them even enough land to fit on the head of a pin. With all the diplomacy failing, a truly devastating war becomes completely inevitable. Right on the brink of battle, the greatest warrior of the Pandavas, Arjuna, is just struck by despair. He looks across the battlefield and sees his grandfathers, his teachers, his cousins, and he just refuses to fight. It's right here in this moment that his charioteer, who is actually the god Krishna in disguise, delivers the Bhagavad Gita. This is one of the most famous philosophical texts in the entire world, and in it he reminds Arjuna of his sacred duty to fight for what is right, no matter how high the personal cost. The war itself, well, it rages for 18 brutal days. And that number 18, it becomes this incredibly powerful symbol that echoes throughout the entire epic. You see it everywhere, from the 18 books of the story itself to the 18 armies that fought on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. The war actually started with a set of rules, a kind of code of chivalry. But as the fighting got more and more intense over those 18 days, desperation just took over. Both sides started breaking the rules, turning to dishonorable tactics just to win. The result was, it was near total annihilation. It was a victory for the Pandavas, sure, but it was a victory that cost them almost everyone they knew and loved. So you might think winning the Great War is the end of the story, right? But in the Mahabharata, the consequences of the war are just as important as the war itself. This victory is just drenched in sorrow, and its effects ripple through the generations to come. And here's a really pivotal moment. The Kaurava's mother, Gandhari, is completely heartbroken by the loss of all 100 of her sons, and she unleashes this powerful curse. She blames the god Krishna, saying he could have stopped the war but didn't. And Krishna, he accepts her curse, that he too will watch his own family be annihilated. And it comes to pass, 36 years later, leading to the self-destruction of his entire dynasty. Years go by, and the victorious Pandavas decide to renounce their throne for one final pilgrimage into the Himalayas. And this is their ultimate test, not of strength, but of character. One by one, they all fall, each of them undone by a very specific personal flaw, like pride or vanity. In the end, it's only the steadfastly virtuous Yudhishthira, with a lone dog by his side, who makes it to the gates of heaven. The epic's ending marks this profound shift in the cosmic order. The death of Krishna and the end of this age of heroes ushers in what's known as the Kali Yuga, which is the current era in Hindu cosmology. It's described as an age where virtue has crumbled, where humanity is in a state of moral and spiritual decline, a concept that continues to be really influential today.
And so, we're left with this timeless question, one that the characters themselves debate within the epic. After all the bloodshed, all the loss, the Mahabharata forces us to ask, can the immense suffering and destruction of war ever really be justified, even if it's for a righteous cause? It's that profound moral ambiguity that makes sure this ancient story still resonates so powerfully with us today.